I have another question that maybe you could give us your view on. Why do you see the treatment of people with disabilities as a human rights issue? What is it about the treatment that people with disabilities get that raises questions about human rights?
Okay. Why is, let me try to clarify. So why is human rights, why is disability issue a human right? Okay, that's what you're asking. When you think about it, access to information, access to physical issues, like going to the second floor of a building, or an announcement, access to that. You know, we all have a right to that information, no matter who we are, no matter what language we speak, no matter how much we can hear or not. And so when that human right gets ignored or not satisfied, then it becomes a human right issue. You know, for example, there are many, for me and my wife who's deaf, there are many small organizations in the community who offer really good services, but they don't have the budget to pay for interpreters. So that really limits my and my wife's ability to go into these organizations and use their services. And because the money's not there, and because we can't access it, then it becomes a human right issue, and so that's why we need to address it.
Good. Do you feel that the treatment of people with disabilities is sometimes discriminatory, and that's the problem with the violation of human rights?
Now, discrimination happens, but it's more about what we call unintentional discrimination. For example, my wife just recently worked at Target, and they had some policies there that required all people to be able to use, walkie-talkie hearing, and it was just a kind of it was a company-wide policy. But that policy was discriminatory towards the deaf person, just because it just didn't permit her to completely do her job. And so it required the company to, address it and to pay attention to it. Discrimination does happen, yes. Like in the choice of which funds do we spend? Do we spend the funds on interpreting services, or do we spend the funds on making the building look pretty, And so if we run out of the funds for that because we don't have the funds for making the building accessible, then yeah, that's discrimination. That's and I think that the meaning of discrimination is just one of the meanings is satisfying the need of the greater population at the expense of a smaller minority population, and that often happens.
Can you tell us a little bit about what some of the issues are for people with disabilities in the Eugene community that you think are important to work on?
Okay. Part of the reason why I'm a member of the HRAC, which is the Human Rights Access Committee, is because it's been my experience that kind of the general community here in Eugene is not really aware of deaf people and their needs, and the need for interpreting and the access to funds for interpreting. So I feel it's really important that deaf people are like members of committees out there using the services, being visible. And so I think one of the challenges is just especially like in employment and in offering services, just accessible information to deaf people or people with hearing loss. Just the awareness that like advertisements, meetings, public information needs to be accessible, and also the funds to use to use to access to pay for like interpreters and services for translation. So.
Are there still needs in the city that the city needs to address as far as accessibility?
Yeah, well, specifically relating to the deaf, and I plan to bring it up at the community, is that really there is a lack of funds available just for general deaf people to, you know, access information. And I suppose there's a meeting happening, and it's not a government-sponsored organization. Maybe it's a small private organization. Oftentimes there's not money available there so that the person could take advantage of it and use it. And so I think that one issue is money, you know, and so I think there needs to be heads getting together and, you know, ideas, brainstorming to develop a fund for that, you know. You know, personally, I faced the discrimination, yes, just in that my choices have been limited because maybe an organization cannot afford to pay for an interpreter, so, and, you know, and it wouldn't be worth it for me to go because I wouldn't get that information. So that is a form of unintentional discrimination, yes. Who's at fault? I don't know, you know, but, you know, yes.
Which is a hard question.
Okay.
Do you think it's important for people with different disabilities to work together to open up opportunities and reduce discrimination that they face?
Yes, I do. And that's why I'm a member of the HRAC, is because we have blind members, we have mobility challenged members, members, and we have, let's see, we have, we have some different disabilities and stuff like that. So I think it's important because it helps us to understand each other. The issues faced by a blind person are different than the issues faced by a deaf person, and the issues faced by a mobility challenged person are different. All very different. The commonality is that they're challenges. Accessibility, common, they're different, misperceptions from the public, and we can share that. But I think what's important is, what is the unique part of being blind, the unique part of being deaf, the unique part of being mobility challenged. And that's why I think we should get together and just understand each other.
Why is sustainability a human rights issue? What human rights are addressed when you address sustainability?
That's a very good way to frame it, I think. You know, human rights come into play with sustainability and thinking about what our rights are as human beings on this planet. And I think those get to some pretty fundamental rights around rights to live a healthy, prosperous life, the right to basic services around things like energy, housing, sanitation, transportation. I think sustainability also addresses basic human rights through the idea of social equity and having equal access to all the benefits of sustainable development. So I think it touches on basic human rights in many, many ways, and particularly the basic human right of providing a decent life for your children in the next generation and beyond. I think that, you know, that's such an important part of sustainability, is that we're looking toward the future to guarantee that what we carry on, what we give as a legacy to our kids and to our grandkids is meets their basic needs and addresses basic human rights as well. My name is Babe O'Sullivan. I'm the Sustainability Liaison for the City of Eugene.
And could you tell us a little bit about what sustainability means?
Well, sustainability for the City of Eugene is a basic operating principle It involves three primary, I may repeat myself here. Sustainability involves three primary tenets. Those are environmental health, economic prosperity, and social equity. They make up the three basic tenets of sustainability here for the city of Eugene. And I think where we see the connectedness between our sustainability program and human rights is primarily through that social equity piece, though not entirely. Social equity as part of the sustainability framework is, concerned with addressing questions around living wages, access to resources and the environment generally, but certainly to economic prosperity, looking at questions about the burden of environmental impacts, that those are spread in some kind of equitable fashion throughout the population. And also I think it also accounts for this notion of distributional justice, I guess is the label I would put on it. This notion that in a period of scarce resources, we all need to share in the responsibility and the limitations that come with those, with the scarce resources. So I think the social equity piece of sustainability accounts for all those, and it's an important and equal piece of the sustainability framework, and one that's really being emphasized here in the city of Eugene. I'm proud to see how much work is happening within the city as an organization to address social equity issues in particular. I think environmental concerns have been the leading edge of sustainability, but I think the social equity piece is now coming up as a much more important and prominent piece of how we view sustainability in the future.
Is it possible to have a sustainable community if human rights aren't respected and protected?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I think it's not possible to have a sustainable community without addressing human rights head on. I mean, as I mentioned, it is a key tenet of sustainability that we're looking at social equity concerns. But frankly, if you have a community where there are human rights violations and concern and upset and agitation around those kinds of issues, you don't have the moral momentum to move forward with sustainable development if you're caught up in these more fundamental questions. And I think I think Eugene is well positioned to move forward on this because they have addressed a lot of the fundamental questions around human rights. There's a great deal of sensitivity in this community around that, and that provides an excellent platform for moving forward with sustainable development. If we have that kind of community-wide concern and protectiveness around human rights, just serves as an excellent platform for us to move forward.